Welcome to episode 20 of Tornado Facts with Beanrock124. This is the final episode of season 1 of Tornado Facts with Beanrock124. The season part doesn't mean anything, it's just deciphering how many 20 episode parts I've done. So what I'm going to do after this episode is take a month off just to probably record the next 20 episodes, because I'm doing it a different way. I'm going to start using my green screen for once. About time, right? Anyways, today's episode is about the tornado outbreak of June 14 and 8 through 18, 1992. It was one of the largest tornado outbreaks on record, affecting portions of the central United States from June 14 to June 18 of 1992. The outbreak began on June 14 when 6 tornadoes touched down in Colorado and Idaho. 58 tornadoes were reported across portions of the Great Plains on June 15. And 65 more tornadoes were reported over much of the central U.S. on June 16th. The 123 tornadoes that touched down on June 15 through 16 make that 2-day span the 5th largest 2-day tornado outbreak in U.S. history, behind the, let's say it together, 1974 super outbreak. Ooh, okay, never mind. Also, the May 2004 tornado outbreak and the tornado outbreak of April 14 and 16, 2011, and the 2011 super outbreak. These 3 we won't get to for a long time. 28 more tornadoes touched down on June 17th and 13 more touched down on June 18th, giving this tornado outbreak 174 confirmed tornadoes. Excuse me. Here's your meteorological synopsis. A major spring storm began developing in the western U.S. over the weekend of June 13 through 14. The storm ejected a minor upper air impulse across the northern plains on June 13, triggering severe weather across the extreme northwest corner of South Dakota. Golf ball-sized hail and 10 inches of rain destroyed crops and killed over 500 sheep in Harding County, South Dakota. This event preceded the main storm, which was still positioned over the western United States. As the storm system moved to the east over the next several days, it caused 170 tornadoes in the central U.S., including an F5 in Chandler, Minnesota. The storm system finally began to weaken as it moved to the eastern United States on June 18th. Now, the description of this outbreak. On Tuesday, June 16, 1992, eastern South Dakota and southwest Minnesota were heavily impacted by the storm as it moved from the Rocky Mountain region across the upper Midwest. At least 24 tornadoes were reported that day, with more than 3 times that many reports of large hail and strong winds, causing widespread swaths of damage to crops, buildings, and other personal property across much of eastern South Dakota and southwest Minnesota. The first tornado spawned by a supercell thunderstorm touched down in Charles, Mix County, South Dakota, about 1 p.m. The last tornado was reported shortly before midnight that evening, ending an 11-hour period of intense severe weather across eastern South Dakota and southwest Minnesota. Until the record was broken in 2010, the 27 tornadoes that touched down in Minnesota on June 16th marked the largest single-day tornado outbreak in Minnesota's history since accurate recordings started being kept in 1950. Remarkably, there was only 1 fatality from this outbreak, thankfully, even though that still wasn't good. That came from the F5 tornado in Chandler, Minnesota. In addition to the F5, 3 F4 tornadoes were reported in Murray County, Minnesota, and Mitchell and McPherson counties in Kansas. Damage estimates for the 2 days were in excess of $160 million. This outbreak played a large part in a record-setting month in June 1992. The 399 tornadoes that touched down in that month was a U.S. record at the time, breaking the old record of 335 tornadoes set in May 1991. This record was eventually broken when 543 tornadoes touched down during the May 2003 tornado outbreak sequence. This record, though, would be broken in turn when over 750 tornadoes touched down in April 2011. Oh, we all know that. So here's your confirmed tornadoes. None unrated. 54 F0, 64 F1, 33 F2, 13 F5, 3 F4, and unfortunately 1 F5 for a total of 170 tornadoes. Now here's your list. Holy crap. This town of Beloit, Kansas got hit like 2,000 times, 7 tornadoes. Most of them being F1, unfortunately 1 F4. This one was on the ground 3 miles. Here's the other one. The other second F4, 6 miles, McPherson County. So those F4 tornadoes occurred on June 15. Now here's the F5 in Chandler, and here's the third and final F4 tracking the ground 7 miles. The F5, by the way, was on the ground for 35 miles. Now here's that tornado. The tornado touched down shortly after 5 p.m. in the extreme northwestern Nobles County near Leota. It destroyed a two-house farmstead just east of Leota as it strengthened and moved northeast toward Chandler and Lake Wilson. The tornado reached its greatest size and strength as it came over the hill immediately south of Chandler, moving into the residential area of western Chandler at approximately 5:18 p.m. The tornado destroyed more than 75 homes, with another 90 homes, 10 businesses, and a church and a school damaged. It caused over $50 million in property damage, causing 1 fatality and more than 40 injuries. Based on damage assessment by the National Weather Service, this tornado was at F5 intensity as it moved through the residential area of Chandler, where homes were completely swept away and vehicles were thrown hundreds of yards and stripped down to their frames. The twister was on the ground for over an hour, traveling approximately 35 miles across southwestern Minnesota, from northwestern Nobles County through Murray County and then into southeastern Lyon County. It had a maximum width of 3/4 of a mile wide in the Chandler Lake Wilson area. This was the only F5 tornado to occur in the U.S. in 1982. Luckily, it didn't occur anywhere else. Now, in addition to the severe weather, another devastating weather event was taking place across northeastern South Dakota. Heavy rains were occurring in an area already saturated by previous rains. Over a 2 to 3 day period in mid-June 1982, 15 to 20 inches of rain fell in the Cedar Lake Watertown area in northeast of South Dakota. Well, I would assume at least 20 inches of rain would fall in a town called Watertown. I mean, it's literally in the name. Anyways, the rain resulted in widespread flooding throughout the area and major downstream flooding of the Big Sioux River. So that is it for the final episode of Season 1 of Tornado Facts with Beanrock124, this one being the tornado outbreak of June 14 through 18, 1982. So, I will see you in 1 month, on this series at least. Goodbye.